Welcome to NYC Jewelry Week 2022. We're the co-founders. My name is JB Jones.
And I'm Bella Naiman.
And we are very excited to welcome you to our 2022 virtual program here on our official YouTube page. Please go hit subscribe and also head to our website at nycjewelryweek.com to check out all the other amazing programs we have, both in person and virtually, and of course on our Instagram page. So Bella, what's next?
Thanks, JB. You're in for a real treat. Editor Sonia Soltani will be in conversation with the jeweler Nghi. And not only are you going to hear about his process, but you can also see more of his work on our website in The Exhibitionist, an online exhibition curated by journalist Melanie Grant that we're so excited about. So enjoy. And if you have any questions for Nghi or for Sonia Soltani, feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll make sure that they get them. Bye.
Bye.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be with Nghi Nguyen today, a designer based in New York, hailing from Vietnam originally. Hi Nghi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi Sonia.
Hi, I'm Sonia Esther Soltani. I'm the editor-in-chief of Rapaport, a diamond and jewelry company. But today it's really all about the fascinating journey that Nghi took from Vietnam to Australia, to Tokyo, to America and the world, I think, large, the real world and the otherworldly as well. And I was listening to a song earlier today that I really like by Bob Dylan called I Contain Multitudes. I don't know if you know it.
Wow.
And I thought that really is so you with all your different, the different facets of your careers and your life that you're going to take us through today. Nghi's jewelry is edgy and essential, is inspired by nature and inspired by technology, by high tech. It's not just jewelry; it's really body adornment. It has such a wide range of inspirations, materials, and also what I think is really fascinating for people joining us on the New York Jewelry Week is that a career is not just about being a jewelry artist, and I think that's an aspect that people maybe don't expect if they know Nghi's work. And today we're going to really explore these different aspects of your career in 5 chapters that you kindly put together for us. And the first time I discovered your work was in Melanie Grant's Coveted. And I love the way she wrote about you and how the materials were so important and your childhood and how the inspiration and but there was no picture in the book. So I started looking it up and I thought, wow, what a fascinating jewelry artist. So I'm so happy that today we're doing this presentation together. And I really hope that people who are joining us are going to also discover new things about you. And thank you. You have a beautiful presentation for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for this inviting me to have this platform to discuss my work. And interestingly, it's sort of like a 20 years journey so far. So as mentioned before, it's a really nice moment of reflection and looking back and going through the 5 phases of my journey, my creative journey, which is what I'm going to present today. Okay, I'll get into it.
How did it start? What's the first chapter? I think it's quite an emotionally heavy chapter, the first one.
Yeah, it really is. Because as you mentioned, like I came from Vietnam. I was born there, and as everyone knows, there's like a big civil war between the North and the South. And so I dedicated this first section to the conflict. But also like the 2 opposite extreme, and that's kind of what I found throughout my life and my work. So this section is about the conflict and also about expression, self-expression. And then I found that we are shaped by our memories and experiences, and that kind of reflect through a lot of my work. And it actually took me like a long time to think back and see like the influence and where it came from. So the first slide is of my family. As it happened, I'm visiting my mother, and so when we talked, I'm like, oh great. So I asked her for this image of us 5. My So this is after the war. The war ended in 75, and then my father was in the concentration camp. So this is my mother, raising us four in this like chaotic city. And yeah, with my childhood, it's about, and also for the family, just about like starting from scratch. Seeing the destruction around us, and then, like finding things and putting our life back together again. And my mother told me this great story today about this picture, is that with my siblings, she would make clothes for them out of her own clothes, like the pants, for example. So so that's one section I want to talk about, just about the destruction and reconstruction of in my work, and that's in these two images. These are more recent work. I believe it's like about 10 years ago. The one on the left is of this mask that I made from reassembling already shattered windscreen that I found on the street of Brooklyn. Walking around my studio, I would see all this shattered windscreen, glittering thing. I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful. I wonder if I could make something of it. So I collected them all. And then I made this mask. And then also for Patty Wilson, for this shoot she did with Stephen Klein for Candy Magazine, I thought, yeah, great, I'll make this armor, for that shoot. And I love the image that came out of it. It's like this distortion image of like a soldier, like he's pregnant. It's very surrealist, yeah. So for me all the time, all of this, images of war and violence, I always trying to make sense of it in a different way, trying to find positivity or making fun of it, just to get through this traumatic experience, I guess. As a child, it's not traumatic, but I mean, living in this environment, you just gotta think positive and just seeing the light, I guess.
And it takes, I think, a poetic soul like yours to find the beauty in different objects, the discarded objects, and the things that people don't notice, maybe the broken and.
It really is. It's just part of survival, I think, right? Yeah, just making use of what you got, and just you got to carry on. Yeah. And this second slide is of the spider ring that I made. But this model is a friend of mine. And again, growing up, seeing the aftermath of war with soldiers and civilians without limbs, begging. Also, there's a lot of violent images. And also one memory is visiting the War Museum and seeing Siamese twins, babies in jar. They were deformed from Agent Orange. So yeah, again, like as a child, I would think like, oh wow, that's so cool. Like, it's this, what is this? Like this alien thing. And this dark beauty, I guess, that I'm seeing. And through my work later on, it would come up, and then thinking back, and that's how I kind of connect the dots. So yeah, I just want to bring it up as this darker side of beauty. For a lot of people, it's reality. So it just needs to be seen and witnessed by everyone, I guess. Yeah, because life is imperfect. That's how I see it. And also the spider ring is about conquering one's fear. I made it out of gold and diamonds, very glittery, beautiful in person. And the idea is for people that's afraid of spiders or have like a phobia of things. Yeah, how can a beautiful object can help them overcome their fear? So that's just, again, just some positivity coming out of some darkness. Yeah.
Stunning.
This one is about I'm connecting to the growing up in the communist regime and suppression of speech and all that stuff. So I'm always fascinated by like armors and especially like mask. This one is made from I custom design all of this shape that can be connected. I was for jewelry, it's very hard metal, so I wanted to explore like soft metal. Armors is not new, but I kind of reconstructed in new ways as an armor, but also jewelry. Together it becomes like a full body armor, and separate it can be like a sleeve, a necklace. Yeah. And the recurring theme is about protection or mutation.
Which material did you use for this specific piece?
It's bronze, electroplated, and then also silver. It's actually a combination of like 2 textures, 3 different colors, and then some of the pieces has like reverse set onyx in them. So you cannot see in the picture, but it's very textural. This next slide, this is a new concept that I've been exploring in the last few years. It's called corrosion chains. I see that like gold doesn't corrode, but I wanted this look of corrosion gold to make it like artifacts. But the deeper concept of this, I think it's about like, destruction, trying to find beauty in destruction, reassembling these pieces in a new way, in a deconstructed way I'm thinking to redefine what precious is, because everything we see is like shiny, glossy, blingy, which is great, but they don't really last forever, like, so I wanted this new vision of what precious is. And I want it to look like, artifacts that represent our time on Earth. Yeah, that's like a recurring theme throughout my work.
You can see also it has a very timeless quality to it. It's striking pieces.
Yeah, because I think like once it's imperfect, there's it doesn't have to be perfect. It's perfect, becomes perfect almost, and then it becomes timeless.
The craftsmanship of your pieces, there's something I think we'll talk about as well, but it's really there's something really that I know you spend a lot of time working with artisans and craft people to be sure that the texture is right, the volumes are right, that it really creates a piece that is lasting and art so artistic.
Yeah, you're right. It looks kind of abstract, but it actually takes so much time to be imperfect, the little details of how the metal come up and would hold the stones, in this case the emeralds. So it's bronze and 22 karat gold, and I wanted like a new way to set the stone, so it looks kind of like natural almost. It's not like prongs or and then all the diamonds I use like all cut or single cut, so it doesn't have that natural bling to it like you normally see. In the daylight, it looks kind of subliminal, but in the nighttime, that's when it really glows. Yeah, I'm really interested in like things that comes alive at night. Yeah, this discreet beauty, I call it.
Like it.
And then it's always fun to see pieces being used in press or celebrities. In this case, is Niger. He's like a skater prodigy. Yeah, so I think it's like a perfect representation, of this. This new distorted glamour. And the other recent press is Helena for Elle. I thought, she's a perfect model as well. Like defying age and with all the charity work that she does.
She's a photographer as well. I think she's really a very well-rounded artist herself. That's very nice. I think this photo shoot is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I love the styling with the bodice, the armor. Okay, so this next phase is when my family migrated to Australia. I kind of named it Freedom and Solitude. We left Vietnam to find freedom, but then when we got to Australia, we found loneliness and separation. but within this solitude and this time of learning English and settling to the new land, assimilating into this new this Western culture, there's a lot of time for me to absorb into like Hong Kong cinemas, and also in particular this famous film on the left here about this hero. He wanders the world. He called like the Eagle Hero or something, yeah. And he's got so many amazing adventures. And with that, like I can dream and like create and just escape, yeah. And of course, we talk about like Wong Kar-wai films. It's so colorful and yeah. So within the loneliness, there was a lot of time to wander and dream. And I as a young child, I always draw. So that's what I would spend most of my days drawing and playing with things, taking things apart, putting it back together. And as I learned English, and as I got older, I got into Japanese manga and animation. I'm just like, still missing Asia, but then with Japan is a like amazing crossroad of like tradition and technology. And like Tetsuo, the Iron Man, is such a powerful film about like the future, cyborg, robotic, and of course Akira is well known, and Legend of Overfin is this erotic alien. Yeah, it's just insane. If you have a chance, just check it out.
I think a lot of people are going to check it out after this this presentation.
Yeah, and I'll be happy and open to share ideas
and now there's a new stage in your life. You actually were a photographer as well. That's
so that was the beginning of my career.
Yourself and the different influences that you had. So tell us about these really, really cool pictures.
Yes, so I studied design. I went to university, studied design, this multifaceted design course, but I majored in photography at the end. And so this is some of my work. I was chief photographer for like this street magazine called Moo. I get to do this fun shoot, got to be really creative, art director shoot. And at the same time, I also joined this collective, created this collective called Deflux with my friend Stella Lim. And we used to make like costumes, which you can see in the right here. And together with this another collective called Jacksu, we would put on events, I guess art show, and like theater almost. We were pretty much creating our own world in this like small Perth town. And these are some of the images that came out from that. So as you can see, it's very like manga influence and highly fantasy and out there.
Did you think of jewelry already back then?
Actually, no. It was more accessories, and it was much bigger. Yeah. Wow, interesting question. Yeah, not yet. So in Perth, I mean, living in New York now, I come back to Perth often and visit my family, and I continue to collaborate with some of these friends, and and I bring my jewelry sometimes and shoot with them, and still collaborate and create all these images. And this happened recently with being featured in Melanie's book. I included this here because I just want to say that sometimes like you're on this journey, you don't really know what happened. You just stick to your path of being creative and out there, pushing the limit, not knowing where it takes you. And now and then, like things like this will happen, like Melanie, yourself. Recognize your work, and it kind of solidified like your belief in the creative path. Which is nice and rewarding. And for this book, I made this ring called this Borg ring to, again, represent like the moment in time, the crossroad between industrialized with this corroded steel and titanium encasing this triangle portrait cut diamond, which represent like a forward motion into the future.
Well, a way to close this chapter about freedom and solitude. That's the real recognition, to be part of this amazing showcase of jewelry artists. Where
yes, it really is an amazing recognition, and the fact that it's recognizing art and innovation in jewelry. To be able to contribute to that is a good thing. This next phase is after Australia. I decided to move to Tokyo. Working in the creative industry, I met a lot of people, and I had friends that were living there, and they saw what I did with Stella, with Deflux, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna come out, check out Tokyo," and and living Vietnam from such a young age, I always have this connection to Asia, and also as growing up in Australia in the West, being first generation immigrant, there's always this urge to like uphold your tradition and all of that. So I thought Tokyo was. It's like a good next move. It's like a nice mixture of East and West, and following my passion with cyberpunk.
did they live up to your expectations with where you've watched the mangas, the culture, everything that you've seen from afar from Perth in Australia? When you actually go to the city and you live that, do you feel like this is even better, this is different, this is more challenging? How did you feel?
It was a dream, stepping out of a plane, getting into a taxi, and the door would open for you and close. Everything is like automatic. And then what's amazing is like the people that I get to meet and hang out with in the underground scene. And on the weekend, or the kids were dressed up like all of these characters. The street culture was just super dynamic, and it's just it was just a perfect setting, especially for what we did at the time with all the costumes and the accessories. So this movie had a big impact on my creative life or journey. Ghost in the Shell. The left is the original poster, and the right is the Hollywood version that was made a few years ago now, maybe 5 years. And as it turned out, a friend of mine, Rila, she got featured in the film as well as this robot geisha. So of course we like freaked out, which is like great how everything kind of come together.
How when was it? In which year did you move to Tokyo?
I moved to Tokyo at the end of the 90s. I believe it was like 98, 99. And just as it reached like 2000, back then we thought, oh, that's the future, 2000. So very interesting and wild time, and crazy how time just flew on by. This is a more recent work. I think it's been probably about 7 years now. But I always go back to this theme of like cyberpunk. To this soft metal mesh again. And as it turned out, this is like a headpiece. You kind of wear it, because I see jewelry not just as earrings or necklaces. I'm trying to stretch the boundary of jewelry a little bit. And like we talked earlier, I'm seeing like a vision of a jewelry that's more like functional as well. I mean, we have headpieces now, but what if our armors, keep us warm, keep our temperature controlled or something. Yeah. So that's what I love about cyberpunk. Yeah, it kind of really stretches the imagination, and there's room for innovation.
And tell us a bit more about this, the headpiece and the color, the higher color is
Oh,
symmetric.
So this is the headpiece is a real piece that I made. It's all assembled by hand. It's made from bronze, powder coated bronze, silver, and it has like moonstone cabochon all over it.
Wow.
And the rest of it is actually CGI. Yeah, there's some things I could not make, or like because of cost and all these things. So yeah, it's amazing. But funny enough, with this image, it was actually like it came by chance, because I did in Australia. I collaborated with some friends, and then last minute the model pulled out, so we decided to shoot it on a mannequin, and then I got a CGI artist, Luke, to come in, and then we kind of recreate this image, and it kind of came out to be better than the original intention. Yeah. So in my work, I really believe in chances, and and then again turning something bad into something like finding positivity in it. Yeah, create something better, and
Yes.
it's actually that helps a lot because
It's
things doesn't always go out
magnificent.
how you want.
She's really magnificent.
Yeah, it was it was shot on a mannequin, my friend's mannequin, and and then we kind of like reassemble with CGI photography. Yeah, I still like it. It's been a few years, but it's still good. It's still relevant. These are some Polaroids I found from Tokyo days. Like showing like these earrings I used to make out of just like metal chains. I used to make a lot of like long earrings, and so this is like my first foray into jewelry. I got asked by a stylist to do jewelry and accessories for his fashion show. So so this is what I used to make out of findings. Also, I was going back to Vietnam during that time, so I got like I worked with horn and also wood. So you can see this model wearing like a horn visor and a big like a hoop earring. Yeah. So so this is like the intro to into the world of jewelry. I call it more like contemporary fashion jewelry because of all of these alternative materials I was using. This was one of what this was Tokyo Fashion Week. End of 99, 2000. And you can see all the accessories and the headpieces, earrings I made. Also, I use a lot of leather, like molded bodice, and also mask, visor. Totally still into that cyberpunk aesthetic, but this time in more like an elegant wearable. Yeah. I was explaining to you today, like this disc earring, it was actually leather sandwiched on top of clear acrylic. So on the side, you can see the transparency, but top is just like matte leather. And this wood Taurus earring lacquer and leather headband that's like flexible on steel wire. Yeah, those were fun days. These are detailed pictures, from some of the pieces I made back then. Incorporating printed lamb suede and metal and silver.
I like the fact that you have a theme, a recurring theme about this body armor. You feel like it's bold jewelry, and it makes the wearer feeling strong and powerful. Like if you wear this type of cuff and this body armor, you can go and fight anyone.
Yeah, I'm always like empowering the wearer. Yeah, I'm all about that, and I guess a lot of like superhero things I used to watch. yeah, and also like the functionality of these pieces. Yeah. But yeah, I love the tactile of the sway, like against the silver also. This is an image of this album cover for Utari Karu. She's a pop star musician, quite well known in Japan. And yeah, I made the acrylic armor, the cuff and the shoulder piece, some accessories, and on the right is something I used to make from electronic parts that I used to find from this town called Akihabara. It's outside of Tokyo, and it's like an electronic town where you can find or buy all these different components to make whatever you want. So yeah, so when I saw them, I was like jewelry, earrings, speakers. Yeah. Yeah, this was a really exciting chapter in Tokyo actually, because this is Sayoko Yamaguchi. She's one of the most well-known Japanese or Asian model at the time in the 80s, before my time. She was like a muse for Kansai Yamamoto, who makes all the costumes for Bowie. And at the time, she would travel to Paris with Issey Miyagi, Yoji, and Kansai and Kenzo to do all these fashion shows. They were like the face of Japan fashion at the time. So later on, when I met her, she loved my jewelry, this mask I made, and these long earrings, and then she included in her exhibition, her retrospective at Kobe Fashion Museum, which was like a huge honor. This was another film that she made. She was starred in Pistol Opera. The picture on the right is some of the jewelry that I used to make that she wore for the film.
And I think you used something unusual for these earrings.
Yeah, it's actually real hair. I used to have hairdressers friends, and so I would get all this hair and just make all of this long earrings with it. And the top is, I believe, it's like wood or horn. Yeah. And this was later on in 2009. I was living in New York at the time, but I got invited to come back to make some special costumes and jewelry for this movie Goemon. This is a ring I designed for a lord. It's silver with rock crystal on the inside. It represents the castle that he was living in. The top, I think, is like a garnet. And on the right is, the armors that are made for the princess. It's constructed from all of the stamped filigree pieces that I soldered together. I added the chain, the pearls, and then with it, the armor again, the shoulder and the cuff. So she's like this, medieval princess warrior.
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And for people listening, look at this ring. We'll talk about it later somehow again. So just remember this ring.
Yep. And this is two stills from the film. I loved it because the film was kind of dark. It's like a sci-fi anime. It's half animation, half real. A lot of it was shot on the green screen. Yeah, I love these images because the armor kind of just glow in the dark, showing like the shoulder, the armor.
I like the fact that we're entering another chapter, but there's always a dialogue in your creative process. The glowing in the dark that we've just seen with the armor is something that we've seen with the corrosion chain earlier. It's something that express I think your vision. And I think that's something that's very important as we get into the art and the commerce, that you have this artistic vision that you express through different modes, and even in and there's recurrence in whether you work with the fine materials or the more recycled fine objects. There's always a theme that shows your artistic and creative vision. And I think for a lot of people who are listening, the fact that you also immerse into art, more commercial sometimes creativity, it's not renegating on your own personal unique vision. So I think I'm very excited that now we're going to talk about also this chapter of your life.
Yeah. Actually, doing this presentation made me really look back and see that link, actually, because most of the time I just create, but having this kind of feedback, making me see the thread in my aesthetic is really helpful. And especially entering this chapter when I moved to New York, because I've always been avant-garde, hang out in the underground. But moving to New York was a real kind of into a survival mode. And within this survival mode, this hardship with finding work and surviving this big city and staying, I got to meet a lot of amazing people, and that's what's amazing about New York. Patti Smith, everyone knows who she is. Alexis Guitar, who I ended up working for. Before coming to New York, I would see his advertising on Estee Lauder campaign. Seeing how he's blue side collar and it's this futurism, I kind of appealed to that. I'm like, wow, that's a really cool brand. I kind of want to check it out. And I ended up working for him, which is amazing. Michio Kaku, he's a futurist. I got to meet him. I read all his books, so that was wild. And then also learning from Maurice Scully. He's a legend in the industry. He was creative director, design director for Tiffany and then Harry Winston. And I got to learn the classical jewelry rendering design from him, which I will show later on. So this is some work I did. Ended up. This is part of some of the collections I helped Alexis create. I was head designer there towards the end. My biggest contribution to the brand, to his company, is to incorporate metal with the lucite. My early years in New York, I used to do night courses in jewelry, learning about metal, hollow form jewelry with Tony Lent, and also learning CAD. And that helped me got my first break into the industry. First working for Noir. They're also an amazing costume jewelry company, doing a lot of costume jewelry for New York underground celebrities and music rappers. And at Alexis, I brought in CAD into the workflow, and then help him build build some of these pieces, incorporating metal and lucite to give it another dimension. I mentioned to you earlier, one of the pieces that I'm proud of is incorporating this luminescent film at the back of the lucite. So it has this colorful, luminous quality, which we recently saw in the Boucheron high jewelry collection. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh shit, it reminded me of this. And so here it is. And then also, always great to see the pieces ended up on celebrities and politicians also, like Michelle Obama. But I love this because it's Whitney's last album, and and it's a really great image, seeing the earrings on her and the lucite bangles. This is another project that I did, another chapter. Designing for Missouri. They're like an e-commerce brand. It was super fascinating to work with this new era of jewelry. And I've always wanted to design jewelry for everybody, affordable jewelry. So I entered this phase and got to design some really nice pieces. Did some really interesting project for a group. And it was nice to know that you can do like simple jewelry for everyone, and not complicated stuff all the time. And this next chapter is designing bridal jewelry, diamond jewelry, learning about diamonds. That was fun too. And as I progressed, I got into like colored diamonds for Scott West and LJ West. This was like a great gig, I would say, working with all these like precious materials, rare gemstones, and then also with really good workshop to bring all of this creation to life in New York City.
And I think was important because I guess a lot of people were listening maybe at the beginning of their career, or aspiring jurors and aspiring designers, and starting and trying to find out what is their path and their identity as a juror. Would you say that even when you do something more commercial, you never compromise your vision? I think that's something that we discuss and we can see in your designs. It's more an adaptation and showing you flexibility and than ever compromising. And I think sometimes young designers think, oh, I don't want to do anything commercial. I want to stick to a certain path. What advice would you give before we wrap up this chapter in your life? Because I think you have such an amazing broad scope of experience that could be useful for other young designers.
Yeah, I think like what I've learned about like moving to New York and working in the street is being flexible and being able to adapt and to have like a career in design. You got to be flexible to survive, and then you got to understand like commerce. Yeah, designing for the people. You can have your own aesthetic, and then you need your own aesthetic because that's what people hire you for your taste. But you have to adapt it so that it's understandable, it's easy to wear for like a bigger audience, so then it can support the business and it can keep going. Your client's business, but also your personal business. I think that's a really good skill that I've learned. Being flexible, adaptable, and I mean a lot of this jewelry, but by the end of it, is about the customers wearing it. So you got to think about the customers also, and not just about your wow ideas, for example. And then having like a realistic design that can be brought to life at at a level where can be reproduced at a certain price point. Yeah, so that's all really important skills to know to be able to work in the industry, because New York is a fast-paced city, and you got to have all of these skills. And more, it's more very demanding for the designers to know all of this, but then also all the technical skills that you need. For example, on the left here is your rendering skills, like hand skills, also computer using Illustrator, and also like CAD, which I will show in the next slides. So this is an example of this, like some hand sketching for this super cool project that I did for LJ West for as a that they were pitching to Marvel. And incorporating like the diamonds like in new ways. The project is still on hold to some legal problem, but this was now and then you get really like awesome project. And this is another design I did for this brand in Kuwait called Optium. This workshop brought me in to expand on the collection. So they have certain aesthetic, and and I kind of studied it, developed this cuff to go with, for example, the necklace and the ring. This is another sketch I did for Cicada, the New York base. This is just part of the development. Most of the time I have to sign an NDA. I cannot show the actual design, but this is just part of like an outside development that I kind of built upon for this presentation, showing the progression of the ideas and the inspiration, for example. And like we talked about earlier, part of the skills that you need to work in industry is learning about different aesthetic of different companies. For this, I dreamt up of this design, thinking what would Van Cleef want. So I would create a design, practice my rendering skills. You really need to practice often, because it's hard to do everything like from hand to computer. So it's quite demanding, but this time is always worth practicing so that you keep your skill fresh, because New York is a very competitive industry.
Which aspect of
So this
your
group,
you prefer? Do you like the selecting the stones, working with the material, the rendering, the CAD work? Which one do you find the most stimulating? Or
I always love the creative, the conceptual side. And naturally I love hands more than computer, but now these days computer is part of the workflow. So it starts with the concept, then the hands, and then the computer to tighten up the idea a bit more. But selecting gemstones is one of the high up there, seeing over this amazing precious gems. And designing with them. That's what gives you the excitement. Like, I'm gonna do it. And then as you get through it, it's like the down where it becomes really complicated, working through all of this technical issue. Sometimes things fall apart. And then a lot of the time is compromising the idea. The client would want to cut the cost down. You cannot use this and that. So that's like the hard hurdles that you have to get through. And then you come out the end with this design when everyone's happy, and if it sells, it's even better. That's the highest achievement.
Talking about stones, what an opal.
This is an imaginary opal. That's what's good about sketching and rendering. You can go as big as you. And this is a CAD rendering that I did for the design of the ring. I was quite proud of this one, using multiple programs to bring it to life and then render it to make it realistic. This is probably like the final stage in design, constructing it so you can show the ideas in 3D to get approval. And this is another rendering of a necklace. It's an amazing set of emeralds.
Really?
And I included this because it kind of go with that swan feeling of it, showing like the whole progression of the idea in different ways. And moving to the last chapter, I dedicated this to back to my own personal work with NN. As you mentioned, working in the industry and spreading yourself thin, working for other brands. I feel like it's important to create your own pieces, so you have that creative and artistic freedom. Because working for other companies, you won't find that. You have to kind of like compromise a lot. So I really believe you need to create your own pieces, but at the same time you learn a lot, and that would help with your other work, because that's what I love about jewelry. Like the industry as a whole, there's so many different different levels of jewelry and techniques that's used. Also like the gemstone. Within gemstone, there's a whole different world like amongst it, and gem setting. So creating your own pieces would really help you going through like the process. and helps you make better pieces, I find. For my own work, yeah, I call it artifacts from a distant galaxy and finding beauty in the unknown and alien. I'm always like fascinated by cultures, different cultures of the world, the rise and fall of civilization, and within that, jewelry somehow always remain. And we would study that to find like, what we were about at the time. I find that really fascinating. So, yeah, I always start with researching. You don't always get to go to the library. These days, there's a lot of like Instagram going on, but going to finding time to go to the library doing research is valuable. It's amazing time to be by yourself. Yeah, looking through history, because a lot of things has been done. I think the most difficult thing is to find originality. I don't even know if it exists, but yeah, a lot of technical things that's been done. It's good to do research to maybe bring it to the present or forward, and also not to repeat designs, to understand like different companies' aesthetic, what's been done during each period. Yeah, like learning the history is an important aspect of being a designer, I find. Because as we know, if you do something, someone saw it like, oh, you copied this, that, it happens all the time. Ideas do happen simultaneously, I believe.
Absolutely.
But to avoid that as much as possible, yeah, is the key, I find.
And I
Do
think
you
also
think so?
you can reference, I think, when Picasso referenced Velasquez, it's not
Right.
copying Velasquez. It's definitely a Picasso, but it's part of a bigger, larger history. And I think that's also what you see in
Yeah.
jewelry. You're part of
Yeah.
a history that starts with ancient history and ancient culture, and some of them look, if you see something from 1000th century before the common area, you actually
Yes.
feel like, wow, it could be worn today. The gold, the
Yeah.
texture, and I think that's why you see new jewelry that has this. It's part of a long, long chain of history as well, and it fits, with your vision and looks towards the future.
Yes. I find that I've mentioned this in the past. I feel like designers were like translators. We kind of like interpreting what's been done and make it relevant for today, for this time, for the people now to wear, to go to certain events. Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty much that. Yeah.
I love this.
We take things here, there, yeah, and make it relevant and for today's
And where was this
audience, I guess.
research there? I like the setting a lot.
Yeah, this is the Cooper Hewitt Museum's research hall, I would say. As it turns out, the day I was there, they just finished this renovation, and then the architectural firms like asked if they could take a picture. So I'm like, yeah. So it was like a perfect snap. It's not always like this, but it's good for presentation. Yeah. So this is more reality. When I go back to the studio, slash sweatshop, I call it, is usually a mess, multitasking. Yeah. When you make your own pieces, there's a lot going on. You got to be like the gemologist, the technical, the technician, the model maker, and everything. I spend the time to learn every aspect. So a lot of things I cannot do, but then I can work with like a model maker, for example, and explain and then guide them into creating the piece that I want. Yeah, I feel like you need to be. I'm very hands-on. I'm almost like a control freak because I'm very particular with the details. Because I believe jewelry is all about the details. That's what makes it like unique and different, and also the quality. So you have to know all of this to bring everything together at this high quality. Because a lot of and also to separate your work from the commercial work. because the mass jewelry, they just send a picture design to the factory and it comes back. It's almost like 2D and it lacks the details. So with fine and high jewelry, it's all about the details. Yeah, and
Also,
I find
you
that
work with extremely highly skilled craftspeople. If it's in New York, in Istanbul, in Geneva, your jewelry,
yes,
depending on the style of your jewelry, you decide which workshop and which highly skilled artisans you want to work with.
yes. I started out doing everything myself, and I find that I have limitation. And then also these days, like the design kind of like leads the process. Yeah, and I would I traveled, and through the time spent in industry, I know, I guess, who's good at what, and when a design comes, I would in like collaborate with the artisan or the workshop to bring these pieces into life. The corroded chain I did in Istanbul because they're very good at old school craft and also like great at hand, and I feel like that kind of brings out my ideas. It translates well. But I will go into it in other slices. So this is the beginning of my jewelry brand. I call it NN. It's my initial. This was my first collection. As you can see, like the thread running through mask.
Yes. When was it? When did you decide to launch your own collection?
I launched my collection after many years working. I think that was after Alexis Vitar, and during the time I was freelancing and getting to fine jewelry. The other point I want to bring up is working in the industry. People tend to box you into certain genre category, and it's extremely difficult to break out. And knowing me, of course, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try to break through. And it's difficult and challenging because every time you enter like a new category, you have to restart again and learn from scratch. So you have to kind of like put in the time to break through the barriers, I guess. And I started my brand in 2012. It's about 10 years ago. And at my first collection, I wanted to get into this soft metal jewelry. So it was the mesh and then the mask. Bring back the cyberpunk and also like the street culture of New York. The picture on the left, I was interpreting like a Victorian in like a modern cyberpunk kind of way. So you see all this like lacy metal. I used a lot of bronze in the beginning because I would see bronze a lot in museums. I could make bigger pieces. I could treat the metal in different colors and finishing. So I really liked bronze. And I used silver and then very minimal gold. This headpiece is actually from the movie Goemon. It was gold, so I reinterpreted with the black rhodium, and I added a gemstone at the front and then incorporate this feather piece at the top of it. It ended up in a lot of shoots and at the Asia Music Awards. So it had its it did well through the press.
Oh yeah.
With my collection, I would create pressed pieces and then also like wearable pieces.
Mm.
Yeah. These are some of the pieces that were shot on the street of New York. This was by Neo Tony Lee. I like these pieces because it shows that how you would see it on the street. You can see the mesh armor underneath the jacket. It becomes like a second skin. And then and then the mask I thought looks kind of like wearable on the street of New York.
In New York, everything goes.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
And no one's looking at you. Yeah, this rings was part of the first collection. I yeah, I always find myself like custom cut my own stones. With rock crystal, there's more flexibility in being creative with custom cut and shape. Yeah, I designed this setting to encase the gemstone. Yeah, my mission is to create things that hasn't been seen before in my designs. And I guess yeah, yeah, and big, and also yeah, back to being like a futurist. This image on the right with the model and the rings and her being a cyborg. I call her Siri. Her name is Siri. That's how I see Siri. Yeah. So this
You
ring.
heard this ring?
Yeah, the temple ring. I call this the temple ring. This is the second iteration of that ring from the movie. That's what I find most of the designs. You can always go back to it. It has the life cycle, but then you can also like yeah, there's always room for interpretation. Yeah, putting more stone, taking things out. I particularly like this because it's lighter, more wearable. I get to put gems on the inside. Yeah, I'm always about like my design is always about like the hidden details, the glow from the inside. This yeah, this dark beauty.
Which gems did you use for this one, for this specific ring?
This ring, the top is a custom cut hematite with diamonds on top of the design, and also the inside is blue sapphires, black and gray diamonds. This ring was inspired by the palace, and yeah, I wanted to allow the light to shine through and like reflect out. Yeah, when I visit like old historical palaces, I'm always impressed by the vast spaces and how they play with the light. So this design is inspired by that. And the details on the side is yeah, it's just like the armors again. Bring back the armors, the structure of the castle, the different tiers of the pagoda.
It's lots of things happening. Wow, what is that?
Yeah, this on the right is I call it the nomad cuff. Yeah, I'm a bit of a nomad gypsy, so I made this cuff because I think we all like travelers. Actually, we all like immigrants. We all come from somewhere. We all like traveling. So this cuff, yeah, I did all this. I carved this cuff in wax. I engraved all the pattern. It's like a marking of time, and it becomes like a language in itself. And I embedded the whole cuff with semi-precious stones like emerald, sapphires. They're very small. You don't really see it, but in certain light and at night, they all kind of like glow when the pattern comes out. And on both ends, I set, I think it's rutilated quartz and also a lapis on both ends of the cuff. And this ring on the left is called Four Season ring. There's a lot of in the jewelry world. There's a lot of like Roman carving, and I wanted to introduce like an Asian like element into the jewelry design. This ring is based on the No Theater Japanese No Theater mask. It represents like the four or the different expression, the emotion of the character. In the West, we always prize like happiness, and it's always about like being happiness and being successful. And so I selected this mask based on the other emotions I think we should explore, like sorrow, fear, and also like calm. And yeah, so the ring has four masks all the way around it. Yeah, it took me a while to conceive it. I was playing around with the idea of putting this mask together, and I kind of wrapped it around. And so this was originally carved in wax. And interestingly, through my travel, I see this design appeared in like certain temples in Asia, like in Cambodia, for example. I see on top of the temple, they have like the four faces to guard around. So yeah, it's super interesting. I wasn't inspired by that. And again, like, yeah, I mean, certain ideas is out there. You're just channeling it, I think.
The correspondence, yes, absolutely. Which material did you use for this ring?
I use silver with 22 karat gold embedded in there. I use a lot of silver so I can antique it and make it like artifacts like corrosion. And I embed raw diamond, rose cut diamonds, different kind of diamond cut to make it look very like organic and artifacty kind of, yeah. I recently reinterpreted this design into pendants for a charity program with Mealing and Muse for charity water. Yeah, so that's going to be launched soon. And yeah, and I really love this design because again, it represents the other facets of being human. And yeah, so these are like those bonus moments when celebrities or musicians like they wear the design. Fred is a harmonica player. He's probably like considered one of the best in the world. He was Prince harmonica player. He loved this ring. He wore it all the time when he played at the Grammys or here with Dave Chappelle and John Mayers. Yeah. He became also like a good friend because the ring, the concept really connect with him. And it's great how jewelry can connect with people together. And the image on the right is Rodney. He's a stylist for Lenny Kravitz. And yeah, I love this picture of how he styled everything together with the nomad cuff. This is with my work also, I do commission for people. And this is a commission piece from this gentleman to his missus. And so I sourced the ruby to represent like love. And then, I created this design, which looks like a lips and then also like a heart from the side. I like taking kind of like really, I guess like concept of like love and nature, but interpreted in a modern way, very abstract. So you don't really see it, but the classic theme is there. Yeah, I embedded just all of the like VS diamonds it was the platinum, and I experimented with the setting. I wanted the ruby just to press into the bed of diamond, showing no prongs. So that's the result of it. As you can see in most of my design, I experiment a lot with the setting. I want it to be as natural as possible. And the diamonds also it's all like mixed sizes, and it looks like it's just like eating up the platinum almost. Yeah. So it's not like perfect or straight. It's you can see on the side, it looks like this white diamond sort of like corroding the platinum, like eating into it.
We miles away from the engagement ring that you can do in a more commercial setup, or that it's a very different world.
Yeah, but it came from that world, like the bridal engagement ring. Like I found myself like wanting to learn the basic, so then I can break it down and reconstruct it again in my own way. Yeah, because jewelry, you really got to put your time in learning all of these technical skills. Because like knowing the diamonds and knowing the technical ways of setting properly, so that I can have the longevity. Yeah, because the quality has to be there to make it like a good fine piece of jewelry.
Absolutely.
I included this picture because I made this horn and mesh collar that Rihanna ended up wearing for W magazine. It's just about the opposite extreme that I go, being creative from like really futuristic and back to tribal again. Yeah, and then just finding that mix and everything that's in between it. And yeah, and it kind of came through in this new design, this collaboration with Muso. And this was designed and made during the pandemic. And I had the opportunity to visit the Amazon in Peru. I wanted to get away from civilization to be, to connect with nature. I wasn't thinking about this ring, but as I finished the ring and doing the photography, it kind of again bring me back to that memory. So yeah, very, very interesting. This is the side picture of the ring. This ring was, I wanted to represent nature as this enduring force, this unstoppable force. Like whatever happened, nature always like thrive and survive. And in this design, it's like coming through this crack of like metal. And again, I wanted the metal to be soft, fur-like, feather-like. So I chose to engrave the metal, like fine engrave, to make the metal softer. And and make the settings so it's like effortless, I guess. So the stone is just like floating there. The gemstone is super beautiful, Muso, of course.
Amazing.
And to get this quality of emerald and the color, it was a really good opportunity to showcase in this design. Also during the pandemic, as you can see in the past work, I always into this idea of like completing like the whole picture of my design, from making the piece, like cutting the stone, to I guess with my photography skills, I get to put it in a setting that I think represent or go with the piece. And this wasn't planned, but for some reason during the pandemic, I got to travel to Peru, and there's this urge to climb the peak of the mountain. And when I got there, it was just like a perfect setting with the lake, the reflection, and then the snow and the peak of the mountain. And as I mentioned to you before, it was quite a spiritual journey as well. Climbing the mountain, and as you get to one peak, there's like another peak. It's just like endless. So that was quite a moment, and I'm glad I get to capture it, because for me, a lot of the work like I put into this piece, and sometimes I'll never get to see it again. So I want to spend as much time with it as possible. So
you take them on a holiday with you, if
you journey. So this is part of the journey. Like camping out on the mountain, waking up the next day like covered in snow. Again, it was very spiritual. And reflecting back on the journey, and it's always about, because living in America, New York, is working industry is always about like success, And then for me, like I don't know, it's really like a long journey. You hit one peak, there's like another peak. So this really confirms, this trip really confirms that there is no such thing as like a peak. As corny as it sounds, is really is about the journey and the processes. And I guess it reminds me to like focus on that and find fulfillment within that, I think. Because a lot of the time within the journey, there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of, you work in solitude. There's a lot of like loneliness, not knowing and not understanding, where things could take you, Because like making the piece, like that Musa ring, you invest a lot of money into it, you make this piece, but along the way, it could fall apart also. So, there's a lot of risk. But yeah, having the confidence, believing like your processes and the final vision, the destination, yeah, really help you like get through all of this obstacle like physically, but also like a lot of it is emotionally as well. That's why I really connect with my friend Castro, as you know as well. We always talked about that. We kind of hang out because we kind of understand each other at this level, you know, and to find us support, to give each other support to get us through all this hurdle was was very special. Yeah, and I mean, like the other perk being a jewelry designer is that meeting other designers. When you connect aesthetically and technically, it's like you like meeting new members of the family, you know, and that's what's really nice about working industry, especially in New York. And now on Instagram, I would meet so many people exchanging ideas and visions. Yeah, so that's really great. This again is about like showing the other angle of this glacier ring, about like the peak, and I had to climb the peak to show the end result of the ring. That's how sometimes crazy I am. But yeah, it's a great feeling of euphoria when you finish a piece. And I love this image that you create for Rapaport. With this concrete, these different elements of the concrete, the titanium, the steel, and the diamond. And I want to end with this new piece that I created, also during the pandemic. And it's about finding the opposite extreme. I was inspired by the peak of the mountain, but also like what's underneath us, deep in the ocean. For me, that's where the aliens' life form really are, that we don't really know about yet. And I always watch all these, like National Geographic films and Netflix videos about octopus and different life forms in the ocean, and really came together in this ring, which I will share more in the next podcast.
That's fantastic. Sorry, just would like to say the central stone is of the ring that you created.
Oh, it's a star sapphire.
It's a star sapphire.
I'm fascinated by star sapphire. I like gemstone with certain like supernatural quality, like moonstone, like the luminous moonstone, and the star sapphire with the star. And there's a lot of experimentation on this ring with like the setting and the enamel. I hope to get into this more in the future.
It's really spectacular.
And I'm open to always open to meet different people talking about my work, and so please shoot me an email if anyone's interested.
And obviously that's great. Also you can follow me on Instagram or check the website. But the Instagram is great because you share a lot of behind the scenes as well there. And
in my stories.
It's really, really nice to see all this, and I can't thank you enough for this presentation, for taking us on these 5 chapters of your life, 5 moments, 5 themes and topics, with the jewelry that goes with it, and the photography and the art and the fashion and everything that makes you who you are. And I think that was really, really beautiful to see that today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought this was a perfect platform because New York Jewelry Week, like you mentioned, like it's great that it features like all sorts of different aesthetic, from fine to fashion to contemporary art jewelry. So so when you asked me, I'm like, oh great, I get to show off all this jewelry that I did, and it came together with this journey. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, maybe our listeners didn't catch that you're based in New York, but you actually traveled to Australia at the moment. We're recording this as you're in Australia, so there's also really a full cycle journey.
It really is, yes.
Going back to your to the childhood archives for pictures and different, and the Polaroids and that we've been able to see in that presentation. So that's really, really nice to see that.
It really is amazing, like the timing. Yeah. My mother always asked me to throw out all my old stuff. Like, it will come in handy one day. I gotta hold on to it one more day.
That today was the day.
Right.
Thank you so much, Nghi. I really appreciate, and I think, I hope our listeners have really discovered so much about you that, you don't, the aspects that actually you don't share on social media, like your career. And I think for aspiring designers, you're such a big source of inspiration. Someone to really look up to, and to see that, how you've overcome many challenges, how you've created your own aesthetic, and how you're always very authentic in what you do. I think that's something that transpires through all the pieces that we've seen today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sonia.
So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and hope you enjoy the rest of this event that the New York Jewelry Week team has put together. Thank you very much.